Welcome to another video. If you're thinking about buying your first buy-to-let property this year, then hopefully this video will offer you some great advice. And if you do take something from this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, as it will really help with the YouTube algorithm. So I'm going to be covering the costs involved and what preparation you need to do to allow you to get a mortgage, and some useful tips so that you just don't mess it up, so to say, when it comes to buying your first buy-to-let. There are also a few things that you should do at least 3 or 4 months before you make your initial offer on the property. So make sure you stick around for that, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos like this one. So I'm Jason, and one of my favourite ways to generate an income is through property investing. And over the past 6 or 7 years, I've managed to build up a portfolio of 5 rental properties. And I know how daunting it can be when you're buying your first rental property, so hopefully I'm going to banish those fears in this video, and I'll explain exactly what you need to acquire your first buy-to-let. So why is 2021 different to other years? Well, firstly, from personal experience, I found that lenders are becoming a lot more strict with their criteria. They're becoming a lot more cautious when giving out mortgages, and to be fair, it's totally understandable with everything that's gone on in the past 12 months, with the pandemic, a rise in unemployment, furlough, low interest rates, rising house prices. All of these things are contributing to mortgage lenders being a lot more aware and cautious of who they're actually lending to. So this actually brings me on to my first point. You don't hear many people talking about this, but it's certainly something that a lot of newbies don't actually realise or understand. And that is to prepare your finances at least 3 months before making an offer on the property, to not only speed up the process, but to also increase your chances of getting accepted for a mortgage. Now this is extremely important because mortgage lenders are going to be looking at a specific set of criteria when they go through their mortgage applications. So if you can prepare yourself and meet all this criteria, then not only are you going to stand a better chance of being accepted, but you also have the opportunity to actually shop around and get the best rate possible. And it's a common misconception that mortgage lenders are only interested in the amount of rental income your property is going to earn. And this just simply isn't true, and often it can be more difficult to get in a buy-to-let mortgage than it can get in a standard mortgage. So here are a few things that I recommend that you start doing at least 3 months before buying an investment property. So firstly, make sure that you have an income. I know this sounds obvious, but mortgage lenders do actually want to see that you have an income, even though you're buying this property as a rental property. And I think that they look at around a minimum of £25,000 per year salary. So if you're self-employed, then it might be a good idea to pay yourself more or earn more money during the 3 months running up to buying the property. And if you're a director of your own company, then it may be a good idea to actually pay yourself your dividend within this 3-month period, because lenders always ask for your last 3 months bank statements. And not only are they interested in what's going in your bank, they're also interested in what's going out of your bank. So it might also be a good idea to just cut back on your spending over this 3-month period. Again, it looks good if the mortgage lender can see money coming into your account and not so much going out. Also, I'd highly recommend that you get your full deposit in the account that you plan to use on making the purchase. So if you currently have the funds scattered around a few different accounts, or you don't actually have the funds yet, and this is usually 25% of the purchase price, then you really should be getting it all together at least 3 months before you buy the property. You want to have it all in one place, because not only will the lender request it, but the estate agent will also request proof of funds when you have an offer accepted on the property. So the reason that I say you should have your deposit in your account at least 3 months before is because the lender is likely to ask less questions when they can see that the fund has been there for a while, rather than seeing this money just appear in your account 2 days before you make the offer on the property. So when you buy a property and you're dealing with an amount over £10,000, which most likely will do, the lender and solicitors are obliged to do money laundering checks. So if you've got money coming in from all directions to make up this deposit, then it's going to take you longer to explain where that money's come from, and you will have to prove where that money's come from. Whereas if that money's been in your account for a while, then it's a lot more likely that the lender will see this as acceptable and you won't have to answer as many questions. And secondly, you'll want to organise your bank statements, your proof of income and your ID so that they are ready when requested by your mortgage lender or mortgage broker. So what I personally do, I create a folder on my computer and then I download the last 3 months bank statements and save them in this folder along with a copy of my passport and driving licence, and I also do a screenshot of the proof of funds in my bank account. And now that you're organised, you'll probably want to run over some numbers for the property that you're about to purchase. And I'm going to go over some of the checks that you should make to make sure that the property is a viable purchase. So firstly, calculate the rental yield. This isn't the be all and end all, but it does give you a very good indication if the property is viable as a rental property and if it's going to be profitable. So to calculate the rental yield, you simply times your monthly rent by 12 and divide this by the value of the property. So for me, in my area, I know that anything less than 6% is just not worth it because there are better deals out there. Now, if you're not quite sure how much rent you're going to achieve from your property investment, then you can actually go on Rightmove and research the area, see how much people are currently renting their properties, and you can also get in contact with your local estate agents, and I'm sure they'll be happy to give you their opinion on current rentals in your area. So knowing your projected rental income is very important, and knowing your exact monthly mortgage costs will allow you to be able to forecast your profits over the coming months and years. Okay, so you've prepared your finances and you've found a property that you think is viable. The next step is to negotiate a price. Now, if you haven't seen my video on this, there should be a link above which you can click, or I will put a link in the description so you can watch that video after. And this offers some really great advice on how you can actually negotiate on your property purchase to get it below the market value. So make sure you watch that one. So what you'll want to do is you want to call the estate agents and you want to make an offer lower than the amount you're willing to pay. Now, the seller will usually say no, and then this gives you a bit of leeway to make a counter offer to the amount that you're actually comfortable in paying. Now, this is a good little tactic that's always worked well for me, and I know it's worked well for others, so it's definitely worth trying, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen is they could say no and you still haven't lost anything. So make sure you give that a go when negotiating your property purchase. Also, just as a bit of peace of mind, you might want to make an offer that is subject to you getting a survey done on the property, just to give you that extra peace of mind. So once you get your offer accepted, you now need to get the ball rolling with your solicitor. So get on the phone to your local or chosen conveyancing solicitor and let them know that you've had an offer accepted on a property, and then they will ask you for all the required documents and identification, and you'll probably have to sign 1 or 2 forms to consent that solicitor to act on your behalf. Now, once your solicitor has everything, it's basically just a waiting game, and often it can take anywhere between 4 and 12 weeks or even sometimes longer. This doesn't mean you have to sit around and wait, because there are a lot of things that you can do to prepare for when the time comes when the property purchase is complete, such as planning any work that you may need to do on the property, getting in touch with letting agents to get the best deal, and to also let them know that your property is going to be coming available for rent in the near future. Now, my letting agent has actually had tenants ready and waiting to move into the property without me having to market it, because I've given notice in advance that my property is going to be up for rent, and he already has tenants waiting to move in. So if you let your letting agent know a few weeks or a couple of months prior to when you're going to start renting it out, then you're far more likely to get a tenant in straight away rather than having to wait. And this has actually happened a few times now with my properties, and it's certainly a great feeling when you get a new tenant pretty much the day you get the keys. Now, obviously this only applies if the property doesn't need any refurbishment or updating, but most of the time, if it does need some refurbishment, it only takes a week or 2 or 3 weeks to get sorted, so it's still a very short amount of time for you to get a tenant in. So having a good letting agent is a great asset, so make sure you use that to your advantage. So as the time gets closer to completing the purchase, you may want to get in contact with your plumber and an electrician, because you're going to need to get a gas safety certificate and also an electrical certificate. And as we know, tradesmen are usually busy quite often, so it's a good idea to give them plenty of notice for when you're going to get the keys, so they can go in, do what they need to do, and you get all your safety certificates ready. Now, another thing you need to do just before completion is you need to get landlord insurance. Now, your mortgage lender will often request this just before they release the funds, so make sure you get on the phone about 3 or 4 days before completion and make sure you take out that landlord insurance, just so that you can complete on the day that you're meant to complete on. I use a company called CIA, and I'm not affiliated to them in any way whatsoever. I just recommend them because they are very efficient and they're probably one of the cheapest insurance companies there is. So overall, I highly recommend CIA if you're looking for landlord insurance. So some other things to consider: often your first mortgage payment is going to be a lot higher than all the future payments, and it often starts straight away. So just make sure you've got the funds available in your account and you actually take into account that your first mortgage payment is going to be higher. And obviously you also need to make sure you've got enough funds to cover the cost of the plumber, the electrician, insurance and your solicitor's fees, stamp duty and all of that. Also, if you are using a letting agent, then they are more than likely going to take a very big chunk of your first month rental. So don't expect to have a positive cash flow for at least a couple of months. Now, another good piece of advice is that you should open a new bank account solely for the purpose of your rental income. Now, this makes life much easier when it comes to the end of the year and you've got to submit your taxes, because everything to do with your property income and outgoings is all there in one place and it's not mixed up with your personal finances. So once you have your property and your tenants have moved in, I highly recommend that you download an app called Landlord Studio. Now again, I'm not affiliated to Landlord Studio and this is not a sponsored video or anything like that. I'm just recommending this app because it makes life so much easier when you've got rental properties. It basically keeps track of everything and you can set reminders for when your gas certificate needs renewing, or if a tenant misses a payment, it logs everything, and it also produces really good reports at the end of the year which you can then use for your tax purposes. I think there is a small fee for each property, but it's definitely worth it in the long run, and I highly recommend using that app or a similar app where you can actually keep everything organised, because it can quickly spiral out of control when you've got paperwork coming in left, right and centre, tenants missing payments, insurance renewals, gas certificate renewals and all of that. So yeah, it's always good to be as organised as you can when it comes to rental properties. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you are still contemplating buying an investment property this year, then just do your research, go through the sums, make sure you're comfortable before making that step. And if you need reassurance, don't be afraid to just get on the phone to your mortgage broker or solicitor or even the estate agent, because they're all there to help. Or you can even drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be back soon with more videos on property and investing.